Yo, what's poppin', gamers? Angermania here. I'm here with Dabacabb, and why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, people of the internet. My name is Dabacabb. I am a YouTuber. You might have actually seen some of my videos before. I have an Overwatch channel and also a Fortnite channel, and now I'm eager to get into Artifact and start up my third channel because who needs free time, right? We just work and make videos 24/7.
Cool. You were at PAX. What did you think of that experience?
So I basically went to PAX just for Artifact. I think Artifact has a lot of potential, and I thought, this might be the next big game. And I wanted to go and see firsthand. I want to see firsthand if it was, if it lived up to its expectations. So I went, and it was cool because they didn't like just hire randos to deal with the booth and the staff. They had actual developers like manning the floor. So when you go through the line, you have a developer like over your shoulder being like, okay, this is how you play the game, this is what to do and what not to do. And I actually had Jeep Barnett working with me, and
Nice.
I was like, oh, this is the guy from all these interviews that I've seen. And he was like, do this, and I was like, wow, this is cool. So it was really well put together. It felt, it's Valve, so it's got pretty high production quality. The game and the booth, the commentator booth was pretty cool. And basically the format was you play one game against AI, and then you play games against humans until you lose. And if you hit a certain threshold, I think like between 4 to 6 games, I don't exactly remember, then you get to go up on stage and play against one of the 4 or 5 champions.
What was your win rate against other humans?
I won every single match. That's how I got
Damn.
up into the stage. I got up to I want to say 5 games. I'm pretty sure it was 5. And then a developer came and was like, hey, at 5 wins, you're probably not going to have another human to go up against. So just hang out for a bit, and you can go against one of the champions. And actually, they told me to come back the next day because it was kind of at the end of day 1. So I came back the next morning. I was like, hey, you gave me your card, and they put me up on the stage, and I took on Lumi and won that game as well.
Wow, now you spoiled it.
Well, you can cut that out, right? You're the editor.
No, it's fine.
You just like bleep, 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 bleep. No problem.
Okay, so did you use what deck were you using the entire time?
So I opted for okay, so when you're in the initial matches, it randomly gives you a deck and it cycles through them. So if you go through all 4 or 5 matches, you get a chance to play every single deck. And when you go up against a champion, you get to pick your deck. And I opted for red blue for a couple of reasons. First, I felt like it had a very clear objective. Like I knew what I needed to do to play the deck. It was like use your red heroes to not get stomped early game, and then at the late game use your blue heroes to sweep the board with your huge blue spells. And there's a lot of complexity in there, and I like complexity, but just knowing what my win condition is was really, really helpful, as opposed to like the green black deck. I felt was much more complicated because I knew the means to the end. I know the means was get a lot of gold, but I wasn't exactly sure what the end was. Like I didn't know what I was supposed to do with that gold and how I was supposed to use that gold to win. So that was the main thing. I felt like I knew how to play what I was supposed to be trying to do with red blue, and I used the strategy and it worked fairly well in the game, I would say.
Yeah, it certainly did. So the initial hero deployment, you choose Bristleback, Luna, and Keith. Why did you choose those?
Initial hero deployment is random. You get one hero in each lane, and you have no control over it. And then the turn 2, you get one hero, and then turn 3, you get your last hero. So you don't get to choose which hero comes out first. You don't get to choose which lane they're in. It's just sort of a random board state. I don't know if they're going to change that, but it's just luck of the draw, essentially.
The first lane, you kill Rix initially, because you were straight ahead of him and gained 2 armor for that reason.
Right.
Do you think that was a deciding factor in your game? Like,
No, not at all, actually. If you pay attention to the rest of the match, I think that 2 armor blocks a total of about 2 damage.
Oh.
I think he hits 1 creep, and that's it. And for the rest of the match, he doesn't really trade with anyone. However, it is possible that because he had armor, that changed the way that my opponent played. I mean, he's not here, so I don't really know. But the actual result of the armor is that it didn't really do much. It's possible that he was like, "Oh my god, I don't want to deal with that bristleback. Too big, too strong. I'll just leave him be and deal with other lanes."
Watching this game earlier, I noticed that Luna lucent beamed Lycan twice this lane and this round and the next round. Do you think that was a deciding factor, or just?
No, honestly, I found Lucent Beam to be super, super, super minor. There's going to be times for sure when you get lucky and like she's in front of a creep and she does 3 damage and she also Lucent Beams for 1 and she kills the creep. But for the most part, Lucent Beam in both this match and my previous matches against the other players that's not recorded, Lucent Beam was not super meaningful. It's just like 1 damage is so little.
I see. What do you think of Rix's rapid deployment? Is it overpowered or is it balanced?
It's so good. I sort of struggled with Rix while I was playing other matches. I think he's in 2 decks because I love his passive. But I don't like his signature spell. I think his signature spell is a little bit pricey. But like, sure, on the one hand, it's like, okay, he dies a lot and you're going to be giving people lots of gold, but that's not a big deal because having a constant board presence and being able to redeploy him in other lanes and get spells where you need is amazing. So I really, really love rapid deployment. I think it's incredibly powerful. I think Rix is going to be one of those heroes that's like, I mean, like high skill, I guess. So I think the best players will be able to do the most with Rix as opposed to like Axe, you know? Like a good player isn't gonna, it's just a higher skill ceiling is what I'm trying to say. I feel like Rix is a really, really high skill ceiling.
Yeah. Just a quick comment here. Do you think in the first lane he didn't have a hero? Do you think, because he's played Rix in lane 3, do you think that was a good decision on his end, or was that maybe a mistake?
I think it was a fine decision because if you see what's going on in the next lane, his Phantom Assassin is kind of in a tough spot. So either the Phantom Assassin, I think it's either this turn or next turn, I don't remember. The Phantom Assassin is in sort of a tough spot. So either she's pretty much going to die. So his thinking, I'm pretty sure, was PA's going down, not a big deal. I'll just let the tower tank Bristleback for a second and then bring Phantom Assassin later and let Phantom Assassin deal with it. Because Rix just can't deal with Bristleback. Like, that's just not going to happen. Bristleback will just get more and more and more armor.
Yeah.
So you have to be comfortable letting your towers tank an artifact. Your towers and your ancient, that's just something you just have to deal with. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's letting his tower tank, and I think it's the right call.
Yeah. Okay, can we just go back a little bit to lane 3-13, because that's when you play Tower Barrage in the 3rd lane, and I think this is such a good play. Did you actually calculate that using Ventriloquy and Tower Barrage would give enough Zeus damage to actually kill Rix, or was that like just lucky?
Yeah, so I put Zeus here specifically to cast Tower Barrage, and it was really, really hard to pass on Tower Barrage in the middle lane, because the mid lane had like 5 things in it, but 2 damage wasn't really going to kill much, and I wanted to take out Phantom Assassin, because Phantom Assassin is amazing, and it would have protected my Keep, and Keeps does decent damage. So I was like, cool, let's just go ahead and, take him down, keep Keith alive. And it's fairly easy to get healing items in this game. I discovered it comes up fairly often. So I was hoping I could kill Phantom Assassin, then at the end of this round get a healing item and heal him up. And I think that is actually what happened. And yes, I did calculate killing Rix, but I think I actually made a misplay with Ventriloquy. I could have spared a little bit of damage that Zeus took from Rix, but I didn't do that. I don't remember why I didn't do that. I don't know if I missed it or if I decided to just tank the 3 damage from Rix, but I could have Ventriloquied the creep so that Rix attacked the creep instead and spared a little bit of damage but I didn't do that.
Yeah, I see. Okay, I just think it's such a great play. First take out PA and then take out Rix, actually utilizing Zeus's passive. I think maybe that's what separates a really good player from just a normal player, that you actually calculate these things in beforehand. You don't just play things and see what happens. You actually have a plan in mind.
Yeah, Dota is a card, not a Dota, Artifact is a card game where you really have to think in advance, especially in deployment. Like, okay, I've got, you know, in this case, 4 red spells. I've got 2 heroes in the left lane, 2 heroes in the right lane. Which spells am I going to cast in which one? And if I put a blue hero, like Zeus is in the 3rd lane, am I going to want to cast a blue spell in there? Which means I can't cast a red spell in there, which means all of my red spell potential is in the 1st lane. What potential do I have in the 1st lane? So I'd say the deployment, like what you do in deployment, is probably more important than what you do in each individual lane. That was my experience.
Yeah, I agree. I've only played tabletop sim Artifact, and there I also noticed that the deployment phase is the most important phase.
Yeah, I think so too, 100%.
Okay, so what was your plan at this point? What were you thinking ahead now with your placement?
At this point, mid lane's getting so this lane right here is really strong. Like Bristleback's huge. He's not putting a lot of pressure here, so I'm just content to let like Bristleback kind of whittle this away. I don't want to overcommit to this lane. If I get a good opportunity to use Red Mist Pillager, maybe I will. But here I get a chance to Nasal Goo Rix, and Nasal Goo Rix is just too good of an opportunity to pass up. Because if you can defensively debuff Rix, then he's just going to die all the more easier. And like with Rix, because it comes back every turn, and you debuff him, you're always guaranteed to benefit from that debuff turn after turn after turn, right? So if you debuff someone and they die and they're out of turn, then that's a turn where you're not benefiting from that debuff. So I definitely wanted to hit him with the goo. I would have liked to have Red Mist Pillager, but that just wasn't viable. Mid lane's a little bit kind of, my back is a little bit against the wall in the mid lane. So I want to just make sure I don't get completely overwhelmed. I know I'm going to lose this tower, and I'm fine with it. I think that's probably this. If someone were to say, "Hey, Dabacabb, like, what's the most important thing to understand about Artifact?" I would say probably the number one thing is understand that you're going to have to sacrifice a tower or a lane. You're just going to have to lose a lane. So I knew I was going to lose that lane, that tower. I wasn't really worried about it. I'm just focused on not getting completely overwhelmed and losing my ancient. So, and then this lane's pretty strong. So I'm hoping that I can just stabilize mid and not get overwhelmed, and then maybe win one of the other 2 lanes as well.
So do you think, because you played Earthshaker in the mid lane this round, right? Do you think that was the play, or?
Actually, I think this play is the play right here. Me playing Red Mist Pillager in this lane,
yeah.
I think that was extremely important because I've already got lane dominance. And I'll point out later, basically what ends up happening later in the match is the opponent gets, in my opinion, a little bit too worried about Red Mist Pillager and keeps moving resources to that lane when he shouldn't, trying to deal with the Red Mist Pillagers, which he does successfully, but by then it's already too late. He's spread too thinly, and as a result, he lost. So I actually did that intentionally. I figure I'll put the Red Mist Pillager here. Either he moves resources to this lane to deal with it, which is great for me, or he doesn't move resources to the lane and the Red Mist Pillagers get massive, which is also great for me. So, God, see what I mean? He should put PA in this lane, and PA just massacres red heroes. He's like, I don't care how big you are, I'm just going to kill you. And I think that was a really good play. And now he's winning this lane, like single-handedly, just one spell. Coup de grace is probably the strongest card, in my opinion, in the game. It's so good. It's it not only does it wipe out it wipes out a hero. Just it doesn't matter how big you are. It doesn't matter if you have immunity. So if you've got a hero with a lane with just one hero and you have initiative, not only do you kill the hero instantly, but you take out their ability to cast any spells instantly. So it's just really, really useful. Plus the discard's not that bad because it's pretty easy to fill up your hand with a bunch of cheap items like leather armor and, you know, short sword. So it's pretty easy to, I don't want to say easy, it's somewhat likely that you'll discard a card that you really don't care about.
Can we just go back to mid lane real quick?
Sure.
Hold on.
Give me a timestamp.
7:54, because that's when you play Blade of Vigil on Luna, and I think that's such an amazing play. Can you talk about why you did that?
So my objective isn't to win this lane. I'm not trying to really kill his tower. I just want to make sure I don't lose my ancient. So what I want to do is I eclipsed, and either it's going to spread out the damage, which would be fine because then I have the cleave damage to finish people off who are low, or it'll stack on one hero, which is also fine, in which case, you know, it'll kill that person off. I just wanted to soak up a little bit of damage. But this right here is what I'm talking about. He plays the wolf to deal with Red Mist Pillager. That's one card. All right, let's count. This is one card that he's committed to the Red Mist Pillager. Plus, last turn, a Red Mist Pillager spawned in front of Chin, so he's tanking 4 damage to Chin. So like, let's count up all the resources this guy has poured into dealing with his Red Mist Pillagers, and you'll see why that's so good. So I Eclipse. It was a little bit of a gamble. I didn't know if it was going to hit the wolf, but luckily it did. So the Red Mist Pillager damage is going through, which is going to spawn another one in front of the convoy, because it has to spawn in front of the convoy. So that's okay. So that's just, let's say, one card, and soon to be another card that have been sacrificed to the Red Mist Pillagers.
Yeah. And I also think, because when you put Cleave on Luna, that actually finished off Riley the Cunning. I think that was such a good play that you saw that you could cleave the damage onto her and finish her off.
Yeah, the eclipses were very friendly to me this game, for sure.
Okay, so what did you deploy this time? Okay, so you have no heroes in lane 1.
This was a really weak turn for me. I kind of just had to bend over and let Lumi do whatever he wanted. I don't really agree with him steam cannoning this creep, because all it does is like send 3 damage through and protect Rix a little bit. Like, what's the big deal? I think he probably would have been better suited putting that onto maybe Luna in the mid lane to soften her up a little bit, and maybe, you know, block some eclipse charges, or just get out the blue presence. Because I mean, I'm at 7 mana. I'm playing a blue deck. Shit's about to go down. So I think he should have focused on Luna, certainly.
Okay, so what do you think is Lumi's plan right now, and what is your plan?
We're about to see. He just blink daggered Lycan because he wants to move Lycan to the right lane to deal with the Red Mist Pillagers. This is going to be another card that he's committed to the Red Mist Pillagers. That's 2 cards so far. The wolf, the savage wolf that one killed, that I killed with the eclipse. Now Lycan and the blink dagger have come over to this lane. And he came over here just so he can play, I think Reptile Convoy is his one sort of green creature spell that he can put right in front of the Red Mist Pillagers. And at this point, I think I'm sort of like tapped out. Like, I don't have any answers to save my Red Mist Pillagers. But I'm so happy with this because he's committed, like, I don't even know, 3-4 cards to a lane that I've already won. Right?
Yeah.
Like, he's defending something that I don't care about anymore. And I think that's what actually won me the game, is he spent so many cards, so many heroes dealing with his Red Mist Pillagers. And I think what he should have done would just be like, crap, Red Mist Pillagers, I'm on a clock. I gotta kill this guy quickly. Instead of saying, okay, I need to control the board and deal with these Red Mist Pillagers. Because if he had just raced me, he might have had a chance to win. But I think this was his critical mistake.
So what heroes do you have to... Oh, you have Bristleback, Zeus, and Earthshaker to deploy now. What was your line of thought when deciding where to put them? What lane did you focus on?
With blue heroes, more than any other hero color, I would say you need to spread them out, because their spells are so expensive. You want to be able to use a blue spell in each lane, like 7 mana spell in lane 1, 7 mana spell in lane 2, 7 mana spell in lane 3. So I put Earthshaker in the first lane. At this point, I know I can win with Time of Triumph. All I need to do is take mid lane, so I stack all my heroes there, except for Earthshaker. And the reason why I choose Earthshaker is because he has stun. So if I just put him there and I have initiative, hit stun, that's going to block at least 2 creatures worth of damage. Worst case scenario would just be Chin plus a creep. Best case scenario, it would be for all 3 heroes, but I just get the 2 heroes. And that alone is enough to slow down his damage enough that he can't kill the tower this turn. I mean, if he hadn't put Lycan in lane 3 pointlessly, and if he had kept Lycan in this lane, or if he had teleported Lycan to this lane, and then maybe cast, you know, a creature spell or something like that, then he probably would have, he might have been able to push through the damage. I'm not really sure. But I stunned the heroes, locked them down. My main objective is just blocking damage. He could have coup de grace my Earthshaker. I'm kind of surprised he didn't.
Yeah.
But it was a mistake because then I Echo Slam and completely wiped the board.
Yeah.
And then he has sort of like an oh shit moment and he kills off his own PA, which I agree with. Because even though there's like 2 heroes in this lane, the PA and the Earthshaker, at this point, like Earthshaker does 2 damage. He's like, I don't care. This isn't a threat to me. Earthshaker's not going to do anything. And he realizes that the real threat is the mid lane. But he realized it a little bit too late. Can
you explain why you would kill your own hero?
Because it's difficult to move between lanes unless you die. That's typically the way that you do it. You can have Blink Dagger or Town Portal, but at this point, like, it's going to take this Earthshaker by himself 10 turns to whittle down this tower. So essentially he knows the tower is totally safe. So he doesn't want to be in this lane anymore. And he probably accurately assumes that I'm not going to spend resources on the PA because the PA is not really a threat to me either. I'm just going to take him like 3 or 4 turns to kill the tower, my tower, and the game's going to be over by then. So he's like, oh my God, I've got my resources in the wrong lane, which is what I was saying earlier. He puts his resources in the wrong lane. I need to be in the mid lane as soon as possible. So he kills his own guy, hoping to redeploy him. But by then it's too late because he left mid open by moving Lycan out and spinning all his cards on the right lane.
So here you play Time of Triumph and finish him off. Do you think there's anything he could have done to defend himself here, or had he already made the deciding mistake with the Lycan in the 3rd lane?
Yeah, I think he already screwed up too much. Like with blue, blue has such devastating spells that you can't really overcommit to one lane, because if you do, you leave yourself open to this massive sort of board clearing effect, which is exactly what happened in lane 1. So I think he should have spread his resources out a little bit more. And he absolutely should not have overcommitted to the right lane, because if he had just completely ignored the Red Mist Pillagers, then at this turn there'd be, I don't even know, like 4, maybe 8 Red Mist Pillagers, which still would not be enough to kill the Ancient.
Yeah.
So I think he should have just been like, okay, Red Mist Pillagers, that sucks, I better go fast. But instead he just blew card after card after card and left mid lane wide open for me.
Yeah, and you were actually the first player out of all the challengers, and also the first to win, which is really impressive, because they were talking like Lumi and the others were like the best players right now. Do you think you would still be able to win if he had 40 HP on each tower, or do you think you would have? Do you think that would have maybe made you lose?
Well, right lane was like mine. Like I was dominating that lane, so that's not in question. The question is, would I have won mid lane if I didn't have the handicap? And I like looking back at it, I want to say that I was 2 health, 2 damage away from killing him even without the handicap, because he had like, I think I did 8 damage spillover. I needed 10 damage spillover. And after that, the question is, would I have been able to kill him next round? And it's so hard to answer, because he had, I want to say 3 heroes coming in. 3 heroes coming in.
Yeah.
So that would have changed the board state so much that I really can't answer that question. I think what he probably would have had to do was put all of his guys in lane 1, try to burn down that tower before it got to lane 2, because if it got to lane 2, he would have lost for sure, because those 3 heroes all had siege damage, and I would have been able to poke through. So he probably would have stacked all of his heroes in lane 1. But the thing is, I still had the Earthshaker there, right? And I have freaking blue spells, so who knows what I would have drawn. It could have been another Echo Slam, it could have been an Eclipse, it could have been, you know, who knows what else. So I really can't answer that question, because it would have depended on if I drew any huge spells, and it would have depended on where he deployed. But I think I had a pretty good chance of doing it. Let me see, what was my last cards before the
You had at least Thunder God's Wrath, and since he had 3 heroes deploying, that might be huge.
Well, that would have killed Rick's at least, right? Because 4 damage plus the... Oh no, it wouldn't have. Only done 6 damage because he was...
Oh,
I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to say.
But wait, he only has Rick's coming in the next round, and the 3 others the round after that. So I think if you you would have crushed him either way.
Oh, even better then. Maybe I should have had the handicap.
You're too OP. Okay, so you got a beta key, so you're gonna be playing in October.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it.
Are you actually so what other games do you play? You play Overwatch and Fortnite, and what else?
That's about it. I mean, I play World of Warcraft for fun. Now that I'm starting the Artifact channel, I think the answer is going to be nothing at all. Because I'm going to spend all my time making videos.
Yeah. But are you going to try, since you're obviously a really, really good player, are you going to try to actually play it maybe like at a higher level, or only for fun?
Nah, that's going to take an amount of like dedication that I don't have. I've got 2 YouTube channels now, 3. Once I launch my Artifact one, so I've sort of I've toyed with the idea of sort of been like, oh, I'm like an Overwatch YouTuber. I could try and go pro in Overwatch, but it's like, nah. There's just YouTube takes up too much time. I'm just better off being more of an entertainer and an informer than god tier, top of the like best of the best.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to be someone like you like watch Hearthstone stuff. You like Crip?
No, I don't actually watch
Trump?
Hearthstone.
Like they're really, really, really good at the game because they play it all the time, but they don't like, competitively compete. They're just really good because they play Hearthstone every single day. So that's sort of my aspiration.
Yeah. I wonder if it's like, if you are good enough to be a pro at a game like this, is it more worth it to be a pro and get like a salary and tournament money, or is it actually more profitable to be a successful streamer? I wonder.
Well, I guess that depends on how charming and entertaining you are, and I think the esports, like Valve does esports well, man. The Dota TI and like the prize pool is massive, so I think it's probably safe to say that Artifact is going to have a really impressive esports showing, and this game I think does really well, is really compatible with esports because it's so complex. There's so many moving pieces. It's much more esports compatible than Hearthstone, in my opinion.
Are you gonna be going to the $1 million tournament? Not as a player, of course, but as a spectator, maybe?
I don't know. Maybe it kind of depends on what happens between here and there. Like, I'd like to build relationships with people at Valve, and I kind of started that at PAX. But, we'll see if Valve decides, oh man, we got to get Dabacabb and Angermania over to our thing. Like, get them on a plane ASAP and get them in the hotels and cover all their food. Then, like, hell yeah, I'll be there.
Hell yeah.
But if they make me pay for myself and they're like, Dabacabb who? Then I don't know. Maybe we'll see.
Well, I think certainly now that you're starting up your channel, you're not gonna be Dabacabb who in Artifact for long. I can't wait to see more from you and what you're gonna make. So far you only make very high quality stuff, so I'm really looking forward to it.
No, all my content is hot garbage.
Wait, really?
Misunderstanding.
You think so?
We'll see. I'll do my best. Well, the thing is, I made my commentary video, and commentary is not my forte, so I'm not very good at it. I'm kind of like, I got to learn new skills. I got to figure out how to do this. So this is all like, I'm a pro YouTuber, like full time. This is my job, but I'm feeling very like at a fish out of water with commentary because, I mean, I'm all behind the scenes on my other channel, so we'll see.
Well, I think your commentary on top of this gameplay was very insightful and helpful for someone with less intelligence like me to actually get you here, explain why you do certain things. And
let me tell you, like, before, I'm guessing you're like me, where you there was like 2 artifact gameplay videos before PAX, and you watched each one 10 times. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's
same here. Same here for me. So I knew as much about artifact as humanly possible. So I was by no means an expert, but I knew way more than the average person. And I like thought about the game and I like studied the game. But coming into it, I learned so much just in 5 games. It was very, very eye-opening. The game, there's some things that I thought were important, and like I discovered, oh yeah, they are extremely important. And there were some things that sort of came completely out of left field. I was like, wow, I had no idea this thing was as important as I thought. Well, I didn't think it was anything. It didn't cross my mind that this thing was important, but I discovered it was insanely important.
Like what, for example?
Anything that lets you move between lanes is fantastic. Like Town Portal Scroll, the first time I saw Town Portal Scroll, I was like, what the fuck? Why would you buy this? Like, because you don't get to attack, right? So if you use it on a hero, you miss out on that attack. And I was like, what the hell? Why would you not want to attack? That's wasted damage, especially on like a red hero. But I like the first game I got Town Portal, and I was like, holy shit, this is like quite possibly one of the best cards in the game. Top 10 for sure, 100%.
That's a video title. Top 10 artifact cards with Dabacabb.
Right. Yeah.
Top 5 cards of the week.
Right.
Yeah. Do you? So you said you have never played anything before going into the tournament, not even tabletop sim artifacts.
No, too slow. I can't sit through an game.
Yeah, it's really, because I'm already very impatient, and yeah, and it's so annoying to have to do all the calculations yourself, move everything yourself, do everything that just here happens automatically. But I think it might be good too, because you have to remember everything. It doesn't just happen automatically. You have to know the game in and out 100%. But I wonder how much of my TTS knowledge will actually translate into the actual game. But one of the things, like for example, how important hero deployment is, and how important rapid deployment is, and things like that, and just the pace of the game, like how long a game is, the feeling of, and what items to buy. I don't know. I think there's a lot of things there that a lot of people who haven't played anything might have a skewed vision on. So skewed, yeah. But
yeah, it's possible. I'm sure you're better than average. I mean, for me, actually one of the things that really attracted me to Artifact is that I like really aesthetically pleasing games. That's one of the things that initially attracted me to Overwatch. Just so pretty, like the characters are really unique, it's visually very compelling. And Artifact, it's really complex, but they do a fantastic job of hiding the complexity between really intuitive controls and a really great UI, and the artwork is just gorgeous. So like, I mean, I hope it's not too insane to say that if I'm going to play a game for like 4 hours a day every day, I want to at least enjoy what I'm looking at. Yeah. And I feel like with Artifact, I absolutely am going to enjoy it because it's so pretty. So pretty. I love the aesthetics.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I think that's actually a really good point, that because the first time I heard about Artifact, I read that, or the first time I actually read into it, I read that it was super complex, maybe one of the most complex card games we have out there. But then when I actually learned or understood how to play, like, of course it's a bit complex, but it's not really that bad as they say it is, at least in my opinion. And I think you're right. Maybe that's because they have designed it so well that all the new weird mechanics are like hidden by the intuition.
Think about it like Hearthstone. Hearthstone has one board, maximum of 7 guys on each side of the board, and no abilities. So all you can do is just drag and click onto the dudes, and that's it. And that's super streamlined. This has 3 boards, plus a shopping phase, plus a deployment phase, plus abilities, plus an infinite board size, plus an infinite hand size,
and deployment.
Yeah, despite all that, it was really simple. I mean, there's definitely some stuff you got to learn, like initiative isn't something that's immediately apparent. You don't just pick like, I was like, oh, initiative, I understand that. You kind of have to play to discover that. But after you like I feel like you put a noob in front of this game and they could stumble through their first game and be like, okay, I kind of get it.
Did you ever feel during your 5 first games, because I see here you still have 7 minutes left, but during the other games, did you ever feel pressed on time?
No, not at all. I mean, like I won all my matches, but to be honest, as egotistical as it's going to sound, it was a little bit unfair because I always felt like in all these other games, I was kind of outmatching my opponent. I really got the sense that most of my competitors were like, oh, what is that game? Artifact? Cool, let's go stand in line and check this game out. Oh, wow, I just lost really badly. Like, I kind of felt like that was going on, so I didn't really feel pressed for time. 15 seconds is more than enough, especially since you're only doing one action per turn. I thought the time restraint was great, actually.
That's nice to hear. I had one more question, but I can't remember. No, I can't.
The one thing that came to mind at the beginning, you were talking about my thoughts on blue-red versus green-black and how they compete against each other.
Yeah.
So, red-blue has virtually no creatures in it. I think the only creature they had is Red Mist Pillager, which I used pretty well in my game. So you kind of have to rely on your beefy heroes and your massive spells to win the game, which is a pretty strong contrast to green, which, you know, has all these really, really strong creatures that they put all over the board. So it's really kind of interesting to me how, like, compared to Hearthstone, everything is determined by your creatures that you play, and you just like slam them into each other. And then there's some other stuff like, you know, spells and weapons, but for the most part, creatures are what probably matters the most. But with Artifact, I feel like you could really get away with a creatureless deck really, really easily, actually.
Yeah.
And in contrast, you could have a deck that's like all creatures and maybe just 1 or 2 spells. It's just having heroes as a thing on the board is a really cool dynamic in the game, and having like really weak heroes that have strong spells and really strong heroes that have garbage spells. It's a cool dynamic, and I like how they play with the creatures that you play. It just adds a lot of depth and complexity, like good complexity.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think is the best counter to red blue? How would you deal with playing against you?
I think something that I would really struggle with would be like just like a straight red deck, because I have that deck has 2 reds and 3 blue heroes, and if I were up against like 5 red heroes, then my 2 red heroes would be trading, but all of my blue heroes would just be getting wiped every single time. And red heroes are so massive and tough that it's like Axe gets hit with Thunder God's Wrath. He's like, okay, is that all you got? Why don't you give me another one? And it's like, oh, 5 Eclipse hits, no big deal. I've got Stonehall Cloak and I've got 1,000,000 hit points. So I feel like if I were up against a 5 red deck, I would just throw blue spell after blue spell after blue spell into them, and they would just shrug it off. So I kind of think I'd get eventually just like slaughtered, essentially.
Yeah, I thought at first that maybe control was good against red, but I actually tried it in TTS, and one thing I discovered there is that Netherward, Pugna spell, who is also a red hero, it deals damage to the enemy tower every time they cast a spell. It's an improvement. So not only does red overpower control early game with their powerful heroes, but also, since control is probably the deck that plays the most spells, you hit yourself all the time if the enemy plays Netherward.
Right. I think probably blue's strongest matchup is against green, because blue has the best AoE and green likes wide boards. So just like, oh look, Echo Slam, Eclipse. Sorry, all your shit's dead. There's also Condemn, isn't it? Like Condemn kills all the minions in a lane or something.
I always forget what it's called. Condemnation?
No, yeah, it's not Condemn. Yeah, I think
it's not Condemnation. That's what I always think it is, but it's something else. Annihilation. Yeah.
Annihilation. I don't know. I didn't play with it at all during the match, but like, there's just blue has so many ways to deal with a wide board, and green wants a wide board. So I feel like blue is pretty strong against that. But who knows? I'm not really sure if the color's going to be rock paper scissors, because at the same time, green has, you know, Reptile Convoy, which isn't wide, but it is really strong, and you can buff it with gold, or like Thunderhide. The Thunderhide dudes are just really, really massive and don't go wide, they go tall. So I'm not really sure. Like, Echo Slam wouldn't do shit against Thunderhide pack. Wouldn't do anything against them. So I'm not sure. It's I miss it, man. I want to play it again.
Yeah, I'm really jealous. What do you think? Okay, first of all, what's the weakest color? And second of all, what do you think is the weakest PAX deck? So let's start with color. What do you think is the weakest color?
The weakest color? I'm going to be honest. I felt like all the colors were really well balanced. I mean, having played Magic in my life, I can feel Richard Garfield's touch on this game. That was a little bit dirty. I feel Richard Garfield's touch. I mean, it's got his signature all over it. It's tightly balanced. The colors have different. They feel different. They play different, and they're all like, they all have strengths and weaknesses. And to me, I felt like they were pretty well balanced. Though I will say that I think it tended to be the case that players overvalued red, and then they played red, and they're like, oh, maybe not quite as strong as I thought. So I'd say they're pretty well balanced, and red is probably a little bit weaker than you think.
And what do you think is the weakest PAX deck, like the color combinations there?
I don't know about weakest, but if I had to play against a champion again, I would be most scared if I had the blue-black deck, because you had to win fast, you had to sort of overwhelm your opponent, and I feel like it was the most prone to misplays, because blue-black wants to just like swarm the battlefield with tons of creatures, slam into your tower, play Disciple of Nevermore to buff them insanely for a huge push. Like, a lot of decks, you can see or feel the loss of the lane coming, but that's not true with blue-black. Like, they could play, what's it called? Dimensional Portal to put the 3 creep in, then play Disciple of Nevermore to give them all some huge buff, and then suddenly they just do like 40-50 damage along with assault towers to your tower, your ancients. Like, whoa, where did all that come from? So it felt like sort of like an all-in deck, and if you go all in, you have to win when you go all in, and if you don't win, then you're completely overextending, you're out of cards, you're out of position, and you're going to lose. So I wouldn't say it's the weakest, but I would say it was the hardest to play.
Oh yeah,
most unforgiving. It was the most unforgiving to play.
Okay, so I think I got answers to all my questions. Do you have anything more you want to add, or something you want to say?
Check out my channel, Dabacabb. type it in YouTube, and I got 3 channels. Find the artifact one, and I'll put out content. And hopefully, pretty soon we can have Angermania or Amy. What should I call you? Just call me Anger. Anger, yeah, we'll have Anger on there too, and we'll discuss, I don't know, some topic in the future. So check me out, and yeah, hopefully we can make some good content. Yeah, I'm looking forward to work with you more in the future. I will put big letters of your channel on top of this video, even though my 500 subscribers is nothing compared to you. But hey man, I started at 500 subscribers too. You gotta start somewhere. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to working with you more in the future, and thank you so much for doing this collab with me. And sure, no problem. Yeah. Peace. All right, I'll talk to you later.